Hello everyone, welcome back to our tutorial. Today we are using pseudo classes. So what are pseudo classes? Pseudo classes are keywords added to selectors that specify a spatial state of the selected elements. I will go through each pseudo class and explain what it does, and I will provide you some examples. So let's get started. So by the way, this is our HTML. So I will just briefly discuss the structure. We have H1, set of H3 to signify what we are doing. And I will teach you the basic of styling tables. And also we have also order link. So for now, we don't have any layout as I am discussing only the foundational concept of CSS. So we already discussed in the previous videos about the CSS selectors, the most common selectors, and the concept of the cascading style sheet. So let me give you an example. A pseudo class, which uses first, I'll discuss the link. So the link selects unvisited links. So in detail, this is particularly useful when you want to style links differently based on whether they have been visited by the user or not. For instance, you might want unvisited links to stand out more to encourage users to click them. The colon link pseudo class applies only to anchor tag or the link with an href attribute that the user hasn't visited. This makes it easy to create a visual distinction between you and visited content on your web page. So to give you an example, so we have here a specific link with a caption of Google. So we will style this one. So A, so colon link. So this is an example of a pseudo class that is targeting the specific anchor tag. So for the meantime, so we will give it a color. For example, all links that are existing in the web page will be having, for example, the magenta color. So we have here magenta color. So because these are all links, so remember the link for Google, the link for Apple, the Microsoft, and the Facebook. So since these are all links, so these are all links. So these are all link. This one. So it's get affected by the magenta. You mean to say that all anchor tag will have a settings of color magenta. So I hope you understand that one. So another one which is for visited, let's say for example, we modify this Apple link. For example, we have visited. So if the link is already clicked or visited, we can have a color, for example, of orange. So for this one, I will visit the Apple link, and when I return to the original page, it becomes orange because the link is already visited. So why is it important? So this helps the user to keep track of which links they already click. This improves navigation and user experience. By changing the style of visited links, you can make your website more user friendly. This pseudo class applies still only to anchor tag elements with href attribute, of course, that the user has previously visited. It's an excellent way to manage link states and ensure that the site remains easy to navigate. So the next one will be, let's discuss how about Hoover. So for example, so Hoover is not just exclusively for links. but any HTML elements. So the Hoover pseudo class is the most commonly used, perfect for adding interactive effects to your website. For example, you can change the color, the background, the border, the font style on any element when the user moves the mouse over it. That's the words Hoover. This also enhances user experience by providing visual feedback and making the website more engaging. So, for example, we have when I hover on the link, so we can have a red color. So, all the links, when I hover, becomes red color. Okay. How about the active? What is the active one? So, the active targets an element. Say, for example, we are also targeting the link. It targets an element that is being activated, such as a link. Again, not just link, but it can be a button being clicked. This will allow to style your elements during the moment of interaction. It gives user immediate feedback. For instance, you can change the color of a button or a link when it is pressed to indicate that the action is being processed. The active state typically lasts only for a brief moment, so in a very short span, but I will demonstrate to you. So for example, so all active link element will be color green. So for this example, um, this Microsoft one, if I click this one, so I'm right at the moment I'm pressing the mouse and I'm not pulling it away, the button. So I'm just pressing the mouse. So if I click the Google, so as you can see, that is the active state of the link. So once I release the button, so it will visit Google. But as you can see, as I click on it, so it becomes color green. So that is the active state. So for example, we have also here a button. I think we have the button. So you can assign also to any element that is, for example, is clickable. So for example, we have a button active and we change, for example, the background into red. So every time I click this one, so that is the active state. So for example, Hoover, for example, button Hoover. So this is another element. I'm showing you that the Hoover is not just exclusive for the anchor tag. So for example, we have a color magenta. So as I hover on the click me, or we can have a color of white and a background of, for example, black. So as I hover on the button, so that is the hover and the active. As I click here, so remember we have an active. As you can see, we have an active background here, which is red. So as I click the button, it becomes red. Okay. So the next element based on our presentation will be check. So there are a lot of pseudo classes, but in my experience, these are the most useful and commonly applied. So again, for the checkboxes, it applies to checkboxes or radio button. For example, you might want to change the background of a specific element to indicate that it has been selected. So for this example, we have an input type of checkbox and a sibling of label for a subscription. So for example, so we will use here maybe adjacent sibling selector. So when an input is check plus label, so y plus label, remember, this is an adjacent sibling. So the input has a sibling of label next to it. So for example, input if the checkbox is checked So for example, we change the background of the label. So for example, so the background here will be yellow. So again, as I check the subscribe newsletter, so the label becomes yellow. As I uncheck this one, so the styling will not be applied. So that is for the checked element. So for the next, we have the end child. This is one of the most useful pseudo classes. It matches an element based or on their position in a group of siblings. To in detail, the end child pseudo class matches elements based on their position in a group, as iterated before. It accepts a formula as its argument, allowing you to target specific element in a sequence. So for example, I'll give you for an example here. So we will use end child, but before we apply the end child, let me style the table first. So we have table here. We have the T head, table row, and table heading, and a T body of table row and table data. So let me first design this one. So maybe at the top. So we will design the table. So I will explain this, but for now, so we will collapse the border. Our setting will be collapse. Excuse me for that. Then we will also have T head, which is composed of uh, TD, and a T body, which is composed of TD. So let's give this a border. For example, one border, 1 pixel, which is a solid type and colored black, for example. So this will be the definition of the T head. I mean, this one is T head. So let me check this one. We have TR instead of T head. So we have TH so that the header will be designed to. So for the meantime, let's give it a padding of padding. I will discuss padding more on the next section when we are dealing with the box model of the CSS. But for now, let's give it a 6 pixels from top and bottom, and for example, 10 pixels left and right. So this one is the settings for the specific table. So we have the name and the address column. So we will use, for example, the end child. So let me find this one. So for example, we have a tr with the end child of 2, and we will give it, for example, a background of orange. So it suggests that the tr, which is the second child, so this one, which is the tr here. So this one is to make it more specific. Let me add. We're only dealing with the T body tr. So it means that Jane Foster. So this one is the first child. This one is the second child. Indexing, I think, it starts from 1, not 0. Okay, so you can do this. So if you adjust this one and child 3, 4, 5, for example, 1. How about 0? Again, there are no 0 indexing start. That's 1. So if there's 5, I think there's also 6. So that one is the TR, which is the end child. So another modification that you can make is to provide a keyword. For example, all the even table row will be designed. This is very useful when you want to create a table with alternating table rows colors. So for example, you provide an argument of add, so only the add number tr will have the specific color. So you can also add special formula inside the end child, not just odd and even. So you can highlight, for example, you can have this formula, for example, 2n plus 1. So it means that the color orange background will start at 1 and will repeat every it will repeat on the second instances. For example, the one here is here, which is John Doe, and it will repeat um, for the second element. So one, so first element, second element, so first element, second element. So if you made this three, so it will skip. So first element, then one. I mean, this is one, two, three. So you can have three n plus one. So how about n plus one? So it just means that starting one, so you are highlighting every first instance with a reference point of the first element. So for example, I made this two. So it means it will start at the second onwards. So for example, I made this three. So start at the second element and repeat every third. So you can also do that one. So for example, we have 2n plus 3. We start at the third element, then repeat every second time. So this is one example. So of course, after n child, we have also a negator, which is not. So for example, we have here a class of highlight in the list. So this one. So we will have a settings for a class of not highlight. So for example, if you're using not, so for example, li not, so you provide a specific class, so for example, highlight, and you provide specific CSS settings. So for example, we have a background of green. So the second child will not be affected because you negate this one. If it is not highlight, which is this is the highlight one with the class of highlight, so all other li will receive the specific settings. So you can do that. So you can also combine this one. So for example, you can combine this to previous CSS. For example, not and child of 3. So the third list will be not affected. So you can also do this one. So not and child even. So if it's not even, it's odd. If it's not odd, then it is even. So you can do that. There's a lot of combination. So, and of course, we have also the first child. By the way, so I will comment on this. So the shortcut for visual code is to highlight the code and control slash to do a comment on this. So first child, this one is also very useful. So we have the first child, then also we have the last child. So let's provide CSS elements for it. So let me fix this one and put it below the comment of last child. So what are first child and last child? So using first child, you can make exclusively the first element stand out or the last element stand out, which is the fifth child. So this pseudo class is applicable to any type of element as long as they have specific sibling arrangement. So for the first child, we can have a background of pink for the list with the first child. So how about last child? So we can have, for example, font weight of bold. So this one. So that will be the first child and last child. So it's very simple. So as a recap, before I end this session, so we learn the value of pseudo classes. So I encourage all viewers to try this code if you want to learn. You cannot learn front end web development if you are just watching my video. You have to dive on it. You have to experience coding it yourself. So again, this concludes my lecture on pseudo classes. So I invite all the viewers to comment if you have any question, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. So all the links on the code will be given. So if you're a teacher, you can download my presentations for free. So my mission is to teach, not just on the four corners of my classes in our university, but I want to teach the whole world truly. So again, thank you very much. That concludes our lecture for today.